TempahZone.
What's going on, everybody? This is episode 73 of the TempahZone podcast with your host, me, Amir Max, and that's all facts. My special guest here with me today. She has been on the podcast before. While she does not make music, she could probably make better music than some of y'all out there. This is my cousin, y'all, so I can, flex for her like that. She's a great singer, so I'll throw that in there.
Thank you.
She is an assistant director of diversity programming and multicultural counseling at Clarke University, and she is also a therapist as well. My cousin, Mikayla, is on the show today. Mikayla, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay, man. Healthy, happy, living my life, right? Don't mind me.
Yeah. That's a lyric for one of my songs, y'all. Dough on me, wrist on ice. I don't have no wrist on though, but no ice on. But don't mind me. I'm living my life. You know what I'm saying?
I'm living my life. That's all I'm trying to do.
Exactly. I think the media is just taking over the minds. It's an election year. Coronavirus is still a thing. There's just so much going on, and I really feel like with all that being the case, it's when you say like everything is going well, it's really just like I'm breathing, I'm moving, I'm healthy.
Right. Like we gotta go back to the basics. Like I have food in my stomach, I have water I can drink, I have shelter. Basics.
Food, sleeps, and shelters.
Sleep.
You gotta prioritize those things and stay hydrated, y'all. Definitely stay hydrated. Throw that in there. Would you say that this year's flew by, the summer flew by? I feel like a lot of people were saying like the summer just whipped by out of nowhere. How did it feel for you?
Yeah.
It's September now.
Yeah, it is. It's September. Wow.
The first day of September. Yeah.
Right.
Crazy.
I guess. Yeah, no, it definitely did. I think, it definitely did fly by a little bit. But it was weird because like some weeks felt really, really long.
Yeah.
And then next thing you know, like you're like, wow, like, and then next thing you know, it's been 3 weeks since then. You know what I mean? Like, so it was I think in my friend circles, we kept just being like, time is a construct, man. Who knows? Like, what is time, right? Like, because it just seemed to move differently depending on where our moods were at, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Definitely. I agree with you there. I feel like after the 4th of July, I just feel like the summers went choo for me.
That's true. Yeah, I do feel like, yeah.
Like I'm looking back on, I'm like, what? Like this summer was great. Like it felt cool and all, I guess. But like,
right.
Still though, it's just it all flew by. But to anyone saying 2020 is a shitty year, I guess change your perspective. Look at things in a better way. Look at just the fact that you're moving and the people around you are still with you. Cherish the ones that you have around you. And maybe you can look at this year better when you count your blessings. I'll definitely throw that in there for the people.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely very important. I guess there's no easy way to transition to this, but R.I.P. Chadwick Boseman. Very crazy loss. I was on a trip in Maine. I know people are supposed to be social distancing, but I mean, hey, I was on a trip in Maine.
I did hear you were out of town.
Yeah, I was out of town, and my phone wasn't having that much reception, and I get this text at 10 o'clock at night about this, and I had to double check it just to make sure, and
right,
it was true. And when you read the details about it, how he was battling colon cancer, diagnosed for 4 years and 7 surgeries, did Black Panther, 2 Marvel movies under it.
Wild.
It's wild. I mean, how did you first react? How did you first figure out about the news?
So I was like video chatting with a friend, and like she was talking about something random, and then she all of a sudden just kind of was like, like she was looking on her computer or something, and I was like, what? Like, and she just kind of was like, oh my God, and I'm like, what? And she's like, oh my, and I'm like, tell me, I'm like, what is it? Right. And she's like, girl, like Chadwick Boseman died. And I was like, wait, what? Like, I was like, no. Like, I went and I looked it up myself to be like, that must be like I don't know, like not necessarily a prank because there's nothing funny about that. But like, it must be a fake article or something. And then it was just like everywhere you looked, like credible sources, like being like, no, like he battled colon cancer, just all the facts.
His account tweeted it. Yeah.
And I was just
that was the most liked tweet ever. It's the most liked tweet ever.
Wow.
Crazy. Yeah, I got a lot of likes.
So, We kind of were talking about it, and it was, that's how I got the news.
Yeah, it's crazy. His impact on everything was just so wild, and everyone knew it while he was alive too. I feel, and I think that's something only real legends you can say that for. And people said he's a real superhero, like it really is. Like no one can ever play T'Challa ever again. Like it's like not for the next like 50, 60 years. Yeah, like he has done that to that role. He has implemented such a impact on culture that people won't even realize him for years and years to come. And so for people that don't realize that is truly the case with him. And he really is, people will put him there like it's President of the United States, first Black President of the United States, Obama, first, extremely prominent Black superhero, Black Panther. I know there have been plenty before him, but
sure,
let's be real. Black Panther, that was like,
it was amazing.
There's never been a Black superhero like that.
Right.
Never. Like, and the real superhero fans are well aware of that.
Yeah, and he had a lot of prominent roles too.
Oh yeah, like with James Brown.
And,
yeah.
Get On Up. Yeah, James Brown, and so it's just like what he was a very talented actor.
Yeah, the last movie I saw with him was The Five Bloods, and
I heard about it.
It's crazy about that movie. He's not really in it that much. And part of me wonders if it's because of the colon cancer why he couldn't participate in that movie as much as he was. He was a prominent role in the movie, but he wasn't in it as much as you would think a Chadwick Boseman would be in a movie. And so now I'm looking back on all that stuff. I'm like, man, it's a really tough guy. A really tough guy to do all that stuff. So one thing I'll say with that is, ladies and gentlemen, there's no excuses. There's no excuses to get the job done. Like I have to say that. Like when I read that, I was like, this dude is such a hustler. he wanted so badly. He wanted to really do it. He did something he loved. Like this was not forced upon him. And I think that needs to get highlighted more. That's crazy. Crazy. I really wanted to talk about the jokes that people made though months before he passed. Did you remember that when those came out? People were saying he looked like a crackhead and stuff like that. They were making like a bunch of jokes on social media. It was like,
no, I didn't see that when he passed. I did see a video, like a video.
Yeah, it was a video. Yeah.
And there was a video kind of describing like, people are worried about his health right now because he looks like he's lost a lot of weight. And they talking about like, maybe he lost it for a role because a lot of different actors, Matthew McConaughey or what's his name, Joaquin Phoenix for that Joker movie. Like a lot of people lose dramatic amounts of weight for roles. You know what I mean? So they're like, maybe that's what's happening.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
But yeah, people were pretty nasty online. I mean, they always will be, unfortunately. But
yeah, and I think that's the thing that people have to just understand is that no matter what it is, people are going to get the jokes off. Because we all could tell from that picture that something was going on. Like, come on. And so the fact that people made the jokes that they did, they probably feel bad about it now. I think it's the same way when you look at the Meg Thee Stallion, Tory Lanez situation. I mean, it went from a bunch of so many jokes. There were so many jokes on that. And that has all been dead. There's no more jokes about that anymore. And I think when it comes to social media, people just, people have to definitely figure out what they're going to do. But how do you rule that, Like, what do you even do about that?
Right. And I think
people are always going to have something to say.
Sure. People are always going to have something to say. And I think it's also like, I think it kind of makes me think too, just about like how we view Black pain, and like Black strength, right? And this like weird assumption that we have of Black people that they can kind of handle things to a higher degree than others, So it's like, we can just clown them, even if they look really sickly, like they might be dying. We're just gonna clown them because they can take it. And it's like, well, not necessarily. Like we're still human beings. Like we still bleed. We still feel feelings. We still, like we can still have moments of vulnerability. Who knows if like part of, Chadwick Boseman's work ethic wasn't driven by this like need, right, to be a strong Black man and like persevere and continue through, right? And there's a lot of like burden, that comes with that assumption of strength.
Yeah, I definitely think that is something that is upon the Black community. I think people, I mean, there was a bunch of things back in the day that said Black people have extra bone in the muscle and
this comes
all bunch of stuff. So it stems.
This dates all the way back to slavery. And you can always kind of find it back there.
Mm-hmm. And if people are irritated by the fact of that, you need to check yourself, because that's just how it is. You know, these things stem from generations and generations of just pure ignorance in a very important field where these things should not be, you know, ignorant, you know, in a medical field.
Even with Meg Thee Stallion, it's like, if that happened to like Kim Kardashian or something, everyone would be rallying around her. Crazy. Oh my God, she must be so. Remember when Kim Kardashian got robbed? Everyone was like, she must be so traumatized. Blah 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 blah. She just got robbed.
Yeah.
Like, Meg Thee Stallion got shot.
Mm-hmm.
Someone shot her, and like everyone was just like clowning her about it. And I'm like,
what? For the most part, everyone was clowning. You know, people were definitely sticking up for her, but for the most part, the jokes really took over. When the lie's more entertaining, no one cares about the truth. So when it comes to stuff like that, it's just people. You know, that joke's gonna take off, and she addressed it all, and on top of that too, no one ever takes account of the things that Meg Thee Stallion's been through. You know, once she blew up, her mom passed away, and you know, she lost a lot of closer friends, and so you could imagine what situations she's been in. Because I remember when it was all going on, I had made no jokes. You know, I didn't even say anything about Tory Lanez on my Twitter or anything. Obviously, for the most part, it's, you know, cancel Tory Lanez, no more Tory Lanez.
Right.
Because if that story's true, he's a sucker. Straight up. Like, no, like there's nothing cool about what he did there. And that's why I couldn't believe the jokes were being made, because I wouldn't even joke about that. I remember people would just like spreading the jokes around. Like, I'd be like, man, like I'd do like a smirk, like I can't believe you're joking about that, man. You know what I mean? Right. Like, I can't believe you're joking about it. Like, it was never be like, that's funny, and that's it. It'd be like, come on, man. Like I don't know. Like, yeah,
everybody thinks they're a comedian, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And Twitter will open that up for people. So what I gotta say to y'all is, you know, pick your jokes wisely. I know I have an episode called Pick Your Battles Wisely, but definitely pick your jokes wisely, because you can still be, not everyone can be Dave Chappelle, all right? Not everyone can be a Bill Burr and make these insanely controversial jokes and get away with it. Like, there's a reason like these. It's a craft. Exactly.
It's a skill.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people think it's easy to make those vulgar jokes that they can get away with, but it's actually hard to choose what you can make fun of. Like
not everything's a laughing matter. Like the Boondocks.
Boondocks, like they figured out a way to make fun of racism, and even then, at the end of the day, there's gonna be some black people who can't watch it. It's too racist. It's gonna be some white people that watch it, like, I'm uncomfortable watching this. So you have to take all those things into account, but you have to know the right angle to do it, which is what makes it hard to make those type of jokes. Because I'm all for the vulgar jokes. My favorite comedian, I love Andrew Schultz. He's a very vulgar guy. He's a very polarizing guy, because I know some people are very like turned off by him, but I think he's pretty funny. Like, I used to
listen to the Brilliant Idiots back in the day, and then I was like, I gotta stop. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, I love that podcast, but a lot of people are saying it's starting to dwindle off a little bit. So but I don't want to, you know, talk about Brilliant Idiots. As much as I love that podcast, I don't even want to.
This is your podcast. We're not even talking about.
This is my podcast, TempahZone.
TempahZone.
It's TempahZone. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, but I think, you know, with all that being said, with you know, Chadwick Boseman and the jokes prior to his passing, with Meg Thee Stallion, Tory Lanez, I just think we have to figure out where we can speak up and make these jokes. I don't want people to stop making jokes. All right. Like,
no, sure.
I don't. Yeah. And it doesn't offend me like that. I don't want people to think I'm like a social justice warrior and like, communities, no jokes here.
Yeah. I mean, like, communities of color like thrive on laughter. Like, it's how we survived for centuries. You know what I mean? So it's like, I get it. Like, but it's also like, have compassion.
Exactly. Yeah. You just got to have
You don't know what people are going through.
Yes. You don't know what they're going through. You really don't. And I think that's why, you know, people just have to just tread lightly with these things, you know, be understanding of it all. I guess that comes with maturity, because a lot of people that talk are probably under the age of 22.
Props. Yeah.
Because I was 18, 19, I probably would have been making them jokes all like everyone else is doing on the internet like that. Honestly, I wasn't I wasn't that sensitive as I am now about certain topics like that. So
right.
it is what it is. But let's move on. Let's talk about Adele. Now these jokes were fun with me.
Adele.
I was fine with all these jokes. What was your initial reaction to the hairstyle and the Jamaican top? The Jamaican flag top. Yeah, that's what it was.
Yikes.
I just thought it was flat out funny. If she wants to rock it, that's like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So my initial reaction, the same friend who told me about Chadwick Boseman, she sent me this she sent me that picture, but she also sent me like what people had been like saying in response to it. Mm-hmm. So it was like hello pon the other side.
Hello
and, like,
pon.
You know, and like what was it, like rolling in the blood clot deep or whatever. And I was like, that's really funny. Like I'm not gonna lie, I keep it. Yeah. Okay, that's funny.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, that's some real good ones. Yeah.
But I was like, oh, I'm laughing at people who are clearly making fun of her, not like her. Like she's not funny for doing it, obvious. Like she's just like, I don't know. I guess it was Carnival, and you know, like some white girls go to Carnival and they wild out. You know, like I kind of.
And they want to dress the whatever Caribbean flag they choose. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, like so I know that like I think like context is important, because I was like, okay, this is Carnival, like I get it. Some people do go out there, they like to show a lot of skin and like be proud of their bodies, and I'm all for that. You know, I'm like, I don't know how I feel about the hair situation and the. And I'm like,
I think the hair, yeah.
I was like, it had to be the Jamaican flag. Like, dang, you couldn't do the Trinidadian flag. You know?
Yeah.
You know, but like, yeah.
We come from a Jamaican family for people who aren't listening for first time. This is a Jamaican family we come from, so that's what we rep. But
yeah, which is why my friend sent it to me, being like, "Oh, is this your kinfolk?" Like, she's like American. She's like, "Oh, is this your kinfolk?" I was like, "Shut up."
Oh man.
But like, it's interesting because I thought I was under the impression, like, Jamaica, obviously, lots of like Africans in the slave trade came to Jamaica. Settle, were there, and then some made it to Jamaica, some went all the way over to the Americas, whatever, right? So it's like, yes, we're Jamaican, but obviously like the roots beyond that are obviously African,
Yes.
And so like I wonder sometimes, because like I kind of thought like Bantu knots was like a very like something really in that African like diet. Like I don't
I thought so too.
I don't see like Jamaicans rocking Bantu knots that often. You know what I mean?
I don't see that. That's a very like uncommon style, in my opinion. I don't see it so
like
often
that doesn't feel super that doesn't feel super like Caribbean per se.
Yeah.
But like at the same point in time, it's also just like all under that African diaspora, like we are included in that, right? So like I don't know. But the hair thing was like a lot. I was like, ooh, white girls with black hairstyles in general is.
That one's like a real black hairstyle though. Like that one's like, there's something about that hairstyle. I'm like that. Like you have to be a certain type of like look to pull that off. Like a black person, obviously, but like you have to be a certain look to pull it off. Like I don't know.
And, I don't know.
It wasn't regular cornrows or braids, like some typical like
boxer braids.
Boxer braids.
Maybe whatever. But like. I'm like, Bantu knots? Really? Like, and like Adele kind of was like, we kind of used to like really ride for Adele, because she like when she won the Grammy, she like was like she looked Beyonce dead in her eyes and was like, I don't deserve this. Like, obviously you deserve this. Like, this is stupid. Why do I have this in my hand and you're not up here, right? Like she was super aware of that, and I thought that was important at the time. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So, but yeah, like. That was wild.
Yeah, I think Adele's well respected, so I feel like she can like get away with all that stuff. But I really feel like when it like all this like came out, like you really start to like see like how certain people feel about like the situation. Like I felt like Black Americans were like very upset with it. Whereas you saw like people who were like, or a Caribbean American or had like from a Caribbean background, like Africans, like they were like very appreciative of it. Like they didn't say it was an appropriation thing. And I almost feel like it's an American thing to look at things and say it's cultural appropriation, because for the most part, it was all jokes and people were like very cool with it. But I saw a lot of people going for the cultural appropriation. Like, I can't believe this, and this is like, y'all just gonna let this slide. It's just like,
Yeah.
What's going on with this? Like, what? Like, that's, I don't
Yeah.
like. I guess it might be an American thing. That's what I concluded from it.
Well, it always kind of felt like this to me, at least growing up with like our family, that like we were kind of in on the joke. Like, when white people would come up to us and, yeah, man, like we have uncles and aunts who would kind of like laugh along with them. Whereas like a black family would be like, no, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And so then we grew up in America being like, what is this? And like, this isn't okay. And like trying to tell our parents that, and they're just like, it's a joke. And we're like, is it?
Yeah.
So there's something really interesting about like being raised in America, but like having these Jamaican parents who are just like, it's a joke, like chill out or something. And we're just like, I don't think so.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
No, there's definitely something to that, and I think it just comes down to definitely a cultural thing. America's is so unique. And I think the more older I get, the more I'm realizing like how different America is. Like it's very obvious, it's how in terms of the diversity, it's not as homogenous as obviously a majority of other countries are. So just off of that, we're super unique. But from this Adele situation, I found this tweet that I found really crazy to me. Really blew my mind. This guy tweeted, his name is Main Tishe, Maintishe. Shout out to you. She says, it's it. I couldn't even see the Avi. She says, non-American black people can be some of the biggest coons on earth. OMG. I'm really starting to realize it's due to privilege. Africans and Caribbeans have the privilege of coming from black nations, which is why they have such ignorant and whitewashed views on race relations. Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay.
That one blew my mind because, because I feel like this. I think she said this because of the fact that she saw that Caribbeans and Africans we're laughing about it, didn't take it seriously. Whereas the Black Americans were like, "Yo, this is unacceptable. No, this is not it." What do you think about that tweet, though? I know it's a very big thing she says there. There's a lot of things that span on this. I remember Ari Spears saying how Africans don't like black people. So so this tweet has some validity to it. We've seen this before.
Sure. Yeah. Well, so this is okay. So I get what she's saying to a degree, but I also think that this is also perpetuating this like bigger issue around like trying to divide black people, right? Like, and that's something that comes like from colonization and like slavery again, like this is all like kind of it's very like house slave, field slave. It's very like how can we make sure that you never come together, and that you're always divided, right? And so we're going to make you believe that this group is better than this group for X amount of reasons, right? So they do this within the African, underneath completely the Black African diaspora, between Africans, Caribbeans, and Black Americans. Not even to mention, not even to mention Afro-Latinx people, right?
Or even Black Europeans.
Or Black Europeans, right? That's like a whole other situation, right? So like they've done that already within that group, right? But then they also do that with like Latinx people and like Asian people, right? Like to tell them you're better than them, but you're still not better than us. Like you're worse than us, but you're better than that. Like that idea of like a hierarchy, right? Is actually super damaging. Right. So like I think like it's kind of this idea of like African and Caribbean people, and like I think there is a level of privilege, obviously, but that is also dictated by white people
and
like,
history,
history, right? They're like
you have no control of where you're from.
like slavery like existed in the Caribbean, in the Caribbean islands and stuff. You know what I mean? It's just like it just didn't pan out in the way in Jamaica or Barbados or Trinidad, wherever. Haiti in the same exact way as it did in America. Like America's just like a completely different scenario, right? So I think like it's like, yeah, there is a level of privilege in just like the idea that you could be a person who was like born and raised in Jamaica, surrounded by other Black Jamaican people in a pretty homogenous area, essentially.
Yeah.
And like have that privilege of being like, oh, well, I always knew what this was like, right? And then you come to America and you're like, what's all this racism stuff? I mean, not that you don't know what racism is, because colorism still very much exists in the Caribbean islands.
Oh, yes.
You know, like we still very much know that. Like racism is still interwoven into the culture there. Even if we don't, even if they don't see it. Like they're not gonna, like, Black Americans are not necessarily going to know what that looks like, because that's just like not their culture, you know?
Yeah, and I think, you know, colorism is always going to be that thing when you step outside of America.
Sure.
You can even see it in India with North and South. You can see it in certain Asian countries. You can see it.
Absolutely.
You can see it all over the place, and it's just it's really you know, it's a big topic that I feel like not a lot of people understand. How do we change, and how does it change? And you know, my first answer to it is it's just going to take time for people to understand, because there's just been so much years of this hierarchy where it's like, oh, like even terms like a fair skin or better hair and all this stuff, like that stuff needs to dead. We, there's so much rhetoric that needs to go. Like people didn't even know Eskimo was a bad word. People didn't even, like, these are, there's certain things that we weren't even informed to. There's so much that we don't even understand. There's a trans community that we still have to be open to and listen to. We don't know everything. And I think we and it's going to take time for these things to change. And so I think, people just have to understand that history has played such a big part into the fact that, not saying that this is the case, but an African man might feel that he's better than a Black American because he sees, Trump is the president. He sees, what's going on here. And he's like, oh, well, we're not like that. We're not like that. We're a lot more traditional. We have our things here. We have, this, we have that. Even Jamaicans too. Like, oh, we have culture. We have this. We have that. It's like you're not even taking into account what history was, and you just broke it down for me. So I don't even have to go back to what you just said. But like, it's all history, and I think people just have to keep those things in mind, which they do not. And I think it comes down to the younger people. I don't see it with the older people. Not at all.
It's an attempt to distance yourself from racism, not from those people, right? Like an African man who comes from Africa into America is trying to say, like, please don't be racist to me. Yeah. Like, because I'm not them, right? And it's not really about them. It's about, like, please don't treat me the way you're treating them. You know what I mean? There's a difference, right? So it's not that I hate you. It's that I hate how you're being treated, and I don't want to be treated like that. You know what I mean? Like, not to excuse Africa, because I've also been on the end of that where I'm like, yikes, like, are we all Black? Yeah, and African people are like, no. Yeah. Like, because like I said, there's a hierarchy. So like Black Americans think that like Africans don't like them, but also guess what? Like Africans aren't too fond of Caribbeans either. Like, so, like I've kind of seen both ends of that being kind of in this middle place, if you want to call it that,
Definitely. Bunch of hierarchies and people thinking they're better than everyone else. It's all
even
all over the place.
Dark skinned people and light skinned people.
Red bone, yellow bone, and all that.
Like, right, are there levels of privilege that exist in all of this mixing pot of Black people or everybody under that diaspora? Sure, absolutely, right. But like, how can we acknowledge that privilege and then also like unite as a people, right? And be not necessarily be a monolith, but be united. There's right. So yeah,
definitely. I totally agree with all that. It's funny. All this stuff makes me think about how like like with Nas. And he like called out like Doja Cat in the song, like Google Ultra Black, the opposite of Doja Cat, and it just like made me think about how like rappers have songs praising lighter skinned women, always, like in songs, not always, but you've seen it through history, like with Lil Wayne, beautiful Black woman, but I bet that bitch look better red. And Kodak Black has songs where he's talking up in interviews where he's like like saying like dark skinned women are too hood and all that. There was like a whole list of how people have in America in rap, where these things have existed. So this is something I think, I've talked about colorism. I love telling people that word colorism because I don't think it's said enough. broken up enough. Hierarchy. These things are not talked about enough. Racism. Everyone just says racism. It's like, can we break this down and start using bigger words, please? Can y'all read a dictionary? Can we stop using these same words, please? That's how I feel. Yeah. Can we stop saying police reform and defund the police and find different ways to attack that? Let's not go down that rabbit hole of a discussion. But I don't want to talk about the police at all.
Yeah, we're not gonna. No. That's a whole other show, man.
Yeah, it's a whole other podcast. It's a whole nother podcast. Go. Yes. Yeah, I've delved onto that enough, and listen to what side you on. That's one of my songs where I addressed that. But I just think that with that being the case, there's a lot we need to change, and I think when people just want to mention police brutality, and like, oh, fix that. It's like, nah. We got a lot more to fix than that. A whole lot more. That's just a little bit of the problem here. It's a little bit of the problem. It's not everything. People think it is. So,
yeah. And I think even just like how colorism exists, not just in the Black community, like you said, like in the Asian community, in the Latin community, like it's wild.
Yeah, nationalism is a thing too in Europe. English people probably think they're better than Luxembourg people, or I don't know. I'm just making this up. Like Russian people probably think they're better than
prejudice. There's classes.
Prejudice. It's all that stuff, and I don't,
caste systems. There's so much,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And we just want to, I think we're just narrowing it down too much. But when you're trying to solve problems, sometimes we gotta narrow it down, and everyone has to get in their place and do their part. It's gotta be like a team. It's a team effort. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely. But I feel like that's enough with the big topics for this episode today. I wanted to ask you about just your opinion and the stuff going on in the mental health discussions amongst the world. You're a therapist.
Yes.
You have a long history with that, in my opinion. I know it's not super long. You've been doing it for like 20 years or something. But like, let me preface that.
A long history.
But I feel like you've had your mindset on it.
Sure.
Just from the last time we spoke, which was around, I'd say April. How much do you think the discussion of mental health has changed? Do you think it improved? Do you think it's gotten worse? Do you think some things have gotten, fell through the cracks that haven't gotten explained? What is your opinion on the discussion today?
Good question. I feel like, I feel like a lot of the mental health conversations now are kind of around just like a lot of like increase or worsening of symptoms of mental health issues that were already there, right? Like being heightened by the pandemic, right? Being heightened by social isolation, obviously, by just a complete like lack of certainty, right? Like everyone not knowing like when this is going to end. The fact that this is all just kind of a collective trauma, right? In a similar way to something like maybe like 9/11, for example, right? It's like everyone's like, I know where I was. I know what that day was. It was a Tuesday. Like everyone's like, you know what I mean? Like everyone kind of knows where they were. Like that first week of March, that last week of February, they're like, yep, I remember because this happened and that. Like this is something that is really actually traumatic, and everyone's trying to just kind of deal with this collective trauma. And so I think right now, a lot of people, we're seeing an increase in therapy, people seeking out therapy, of course.
I was going to ask if there's been an increase in all that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I believe, I think they said the national average was like 25% increase overall, but then like also just like, even in my own counseling center at Clarke, like we're seeing an increase as well. I don't want to say happy. Happy isn't the right word. But like I feel good about more people of color getting into therapy just because I want that to be a thing that people of color are doing more. So I'm glad that that's happening. I'm glad that people of color at Clarke are seeking out us as a resource. But it's also like indicative of a larger issue, which is that it's really hard right now. It's hard out here.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of the conversations are around people just trying to, like, all this collective trauma happens. Everyone's really stressed out. No one has any answers. And everyone wants answers. And they're like, okay, well, I'm going to go to therapy. And, like, hopefully therapy will like make it better, because we do live in like a pretty like microwave like society where we're like, fix this, you know? And we want results. We want results now, right? And like a lot of the therapy that's being done right now is really just like processing how we cope with the unknown, you know, how we deal with uncertainty, and how we can like focus on just ways to be resilient through this whole thing, which is not easy. It's not the funnest thing to hear when you're like, I feel really, really crappy, make me feel better. And someone's like, there's really not much that's going to make you feel better right now. The thing that's making you feel this way is completely out of our hands.
Yeah.
You know?
You got, you know, therapy is always just the outlet. It's not, you know, it's not the, you know, they're not going to help you score. Therapy's not going to help you score. It's just a pass, you know, it's just an assist, you know. And I think a lot of people.
It was a sports reference, yeah.
Yeah, it was a sports reference. You know, I think, I had to throw that in there. I really feel that, you know, therapy is just, you know, such a vital tool, and I feel like so many white people I've heard just like, I've been getting therapy. I'm like 10 years old, 12 years old. I've talked to my friends about therapy, like my white friends about therapy, and they've been doing it since they were kids. I'm like,
wow.
Like all of them, and then I'm on the one. I'm like, damn, I didn't get therapy till I was 23. Like Jesus, I wish I was doing this, and I only needed like a couple of months of it. But like I was like, man, like if I had this when like at certain times when I was a kid, who knows how things could have turned out? You know what I mean? Because it helped. It helped a lot for me. But you know, I'm only one person and one example, and everyone has to figure out their own way for it. You know, some people need years of therapy. So it all depends on who you are. But I love that talking about suicide prevention isn't as taboo as it was 5 years ago. Like I'm watching The Sopranos, and in the show, like Tony Soprano is like, he's dealing with all this, panic attacks and stuff. And, he tells his friends he's seeing a psychiatrist, and they look at him like he, this terrible dude, they kill and do all this terrible stuff, money laundering, whatever. But he's seeing a psychiatrist, and that's the crazy part in the show. Yeah. That is the taboo
thing. That's the unacceptable part.
Yeah, it's like, holy crap. And that show, is from 1999, 2000. But that's 20 years ago people were looking at mental health. So you can imagine 20 years now, how much do you think really has changed? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm. I mean, the stigma of it is definitely less. There's still stigma, but I think it's definitely lessening a lot. I mean, especially when you think about just the younger generations, Gen Z is seeking out therapy in a way that is so much healthier than the generations before them.
Tough it up, be a man.
Yeah, all of that. Yeah.
You're crying about it, don't cry about it. Real men don't show emotion. That's all guy talk.
We just it's funny because we'll see students and we're thinking okay, we're gonna have to wade through all this stigma and shame, and then they're like, okay, so the first time I went to therapy, blah 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 blah, and you're like, oh, okay, you know what I mean? Some people come in some people come in like that. Obviously, a lot of students of color, maybe this is their first time, so they're like, yikes, what does this even look like? I don't even really know if I need this. And I'm like, well, let's see, let's just talk. So yeah, it's there's definitely good.
Unpacking. That's one of the terms I've heard for therapy is unpacking. I think I don't know how much we had discussed on that the last time that you were on the podcast, but I think that's just something to for people to for me to reiterate at least, because I could imagine we addressed that a lot last episode that we did. I didn't go back to check on it because I feel I don't want to accidentally repeat anything we said last time. You know what I mean?
I know. I hadn't even thought that. Yeah.
Which we definitely did it, but I was did we predict the last episode? But it's even if we are, so what?
I mean, it's always good to hear again, honestly.
Yes. Sometimes a good old reminder is what the people need, arrest the cops who killed Breonna Taylor. That time, I love when people I see the tweets and people put it out there. It's reminder. You're not gonna get away with your day without a little, because non-Black people do not think about racism like we do. I think I could talk about it, think about it every day. There's people out there, white people out there, they don't even want you saying racism. They don't want you saying you're black around them. Like if you are,
Right.
like there are white people like that, you know? Like there's white people who say like, man, white people crazy, and just go, okay. We're like, yeah, like say something else, say something more to that. Like I was joking,
Right.
but like, why are you making me feel like that? You know, like race is just
Yeah.
that thing that isn't discussed about more. And just like with mental health, it's something that needs to get brought up more and more, you know? So reminders.
Reminders. I think also just like a lot of like validation needs to happen around just like what a lot of like Black people are experiencing right now, that this is there is like there's a name for it, like we call it racial trauma, right? And like this is a real thing, and
real thing. Oh my God,
it's a real thing, right? Like so people are like, oh, I guess it's just like normal for me to like not want to leave the house for fear something's gonna happen to me, or being worried about my loved ones, feeling like I'm paranoid, feeling like I'm, having nightmares, having like random like thoughts and memories, getting distracted easily, that these like being kind of really on guard and watchful when you're walking around, just because you're walking around with this Black skin. Like that's a trauma response.
Yeah.
And people don't even think about it like that. And especially people of color, right? Because we're just like so used to invalidating our feelings and being like, whatever, like shrug it off, keep walking, keep moving. But it's like, this is real trauma. This is real stuff. Like this is really hard to cope with. This is not natural.
And the mental aspect can harm you physically. People get heart disease from mental health. People get cancer from mental health. They get all types of diseases solely from the fact you're stressed, trauma, PTSD, all these things, anxiety, like these things can worsen you, the stress levels. These are real things. These things wear you down, And so until people can truly accept that, I think it will be better for, those to talk more. Like all the people I know that don't talk a lot, I can just tell they got something inside them that they could probably talk about with somebody.
Yeah, I'm always like,
I'm being a dead set. I didn't notice that when I was younger in life, but nowadays I'm like, if you are a type of person who is just quiet naturally, I'm really wondering to myself, what's
wrong?
Going on? What's going on
in there?
Yeah. And it might not be, something you will self-harm or harm others, but it's something up. There's something going on. And it doesn't mean you're going to be a bad person because of it if you suppress, thoughts, but something is going on. And so I think that's I think that's something that
I think even if people don't feel like therapy is the thing for them, right? Like whatever, that's their decision. But I think even just like finding a community, like even if it's just you and 3 friends of color, 3 Black friends, we can just say, can we please just like talk about how like crappy this all is and like how much this all sucks? Like just like having community, right? Like being able to talk to your family about it, or just somebody, you know what I mean? Like to just process it and hear other people talk about it, and like that's helpful too. Like we heal through community.
Yeah, people are like, I don't want to talk about it. Like, oh no, forget about it. No. So why don't you shut up about it? No, forget about it. All that stuff. It's like, no. That's the thing you probably want to talk about. It's the thing you want to discuss. The power of conversation. It's the reason why I love podcasting. You know what I mean? The power of a conversation is just so. The dialogue is just so important. I think it's such an important thing in this world, and I think. That's just really the reason why, I love music and podcasts. And I think words matter. These things are important. So when people use them and can speak up, you realize that we have more alike than we do like not alike. And so that those things help out. It just does. So.
And a lot of people will like come in to see me pretty skeptical. And then they like leave and they're like, after like the 3rd or 4th session, they're like, every time I come here, after I leave, I always feel a little bit better.
Yeah.
Even if I felt a little worse in session, I leave feeling a little bit better leaving, But I feel like a little bit like a weight has been lifted off of me,
Yeah.
Like that. Like that's the power. That's the power. I was thinking of the power of the pine salt. That's the power of pine salt, baby. Yeah, but that's the power of therapy, really.
Therapy. There's some real power to it, and I think it is Suicide Prevention Month, and so I think, coincidentally enough, it's not like I said I would have you on because it is Suicide Prevention Month, but I think it's, it's good to get that out there. If you know someone that's like this, y'all gotta speak up. Y'all gotta, y'all have to find ways to address these certain situations. You don't have to bring it up to your friends, because your friends don't have to know everything that you're going through. All right. I think, we all say this, like, you shouldn't tell your friends just about everything, because no one will understand you like you do. So if you tell people certain things, they might look at you crazy, and they have the right to. So you gotta go to somebody unbiased, like a therapist. So don't just tell everybody everything. Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I think share as you feel.
Don't overshare with the certain.
Yeah, I mean, don't overshare, obviously, but share as you feel comfortable. I think there are ways for people to lean on friends and family, as a person of support without oversharing or whatever. I think and it's not necessarily for them to understand, just for them. Maybe sometimes it's for someone to listen. Mm-hmm. Right? And y'all know that about me. I'm not your therapist. I'm your cousin. Mm-hmm. But if you need to talk, I would rather listen to you talk, just be there to listen, than you not tell somebody or not talk to somebody. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So if it's not a therapist and it's not a friend, let it be a hotline. Someone's a stranger, you know what I mean? Let it be somebody, just try to get that off of your chest, right? Everything you're feeling is probably a very natural reaction to a very unnatural situation, like this pandemic and all this racial unrest. All that stuff is unnatural and not okay. Yes. And you're having a very normal response to all of those things that are very abnormal,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're just human, people make mistakes, people have, flaws, people are, there's, things that we go through. And so you just have to address all those things and be willing to face it. I think that's the big part, be willing to face it. But yeah, I think we're close to the time right now. Mikayla, I am very happy to have you on. It's always a really good discussion. I think in these times with the election coming up and Corona still being a thing and racial tensions kind of being high in the country, I feel like it's important we have these discussions for people to
please vote. Go out and vote.
And go out and vote. Definitely.
I voted today.
Yes, good. Yeah, definitely good to do that. Make sure y'all go out and vote come the next election coming up in November.
Especially young people.
Young people definitely go out and vote. It definitely matters. I don't care what anyone's ever told you. Just do it, please. Just do it.
If it doesn't matter, then just do it anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. What's the point?
What do you have to lose?
Yeah, it's free. You know what I'm saying?
It took me 5 minutes.
Yeah, it's really easy. Yeah, this place is all close by, But is there anything you wanted to plug for the people before we got out of here? I know you're not the social media person like that. So But is there anything you want to plug for the people before we get out of here?
Sure.
A good message you want to spread?
I know, right? What's my neon sign?
Yeah, do some mirror.
Yeah. I was gonna say, if you can, try and follow some therapy Instagrams, I find those helpful, melanin and mental health is a good one. Therapy for Black girls, Ayanna therapy, which is spelled just like Ayanna Presley, which is also another reminder. So, just checking out some of those resources, because they also have search engines for therapists of color. They have a whole database of therapists of color.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's good. That's big.
Yeah. So look out for that. There's a lot of people are doing a lot of discussion groups around race. I know I'm going to be doing one at Clarke coming up soon, and I also do some work at Holy Cross, which is also in Worcester. I do a support group there as well for students of color. So, if there's any students who that's an option for you, do that. If not, I think there might be some in private practice options. Blue Cross Blue Shield is waiving copays. So for people to do telehealth therapy, so you don't even need to go in the office. You could do a session just like this. Look up what your options. You have options, I promise.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think those are some good options for the people to have. So definitely great you mentioned that. Really.
Yeah, I can send you some links too if you want to put it in your thingy.
Yeah, definitely send them my way. I'll definitely put it out there for sure. I think it's very important. So yeah, definitely send them my way. Yeah, definitely. Mikayla, thank you very much for being on this episode of TempahZone podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me again. I'm always happy to come on and just.
It's always a good combo,
Listen, hip hop culture, R&B culture, all that stuff is also great. Mental health is also great.
We always found a way to tie it together.
It's so important.
That's all important. Yeah, you can always find a way to tie together and make something good out of it, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah.
All right, y'all. We're going to wrap this one up. Tune in for the next one. We're going to come with another episode this week, too. So make sure you tune in for that one as well. Until the next time, y'all. Peace out.